Why does China want to be in Formula One, and how? Is Lotus back? We will answer all these in today's F1 story, so stay tuned. Before we start, let's lay down the dots for you. Lotus is now owned by a Chinese company. BYD is circling Aston Martin and Alpine. FIA is sitting there with its hand out, hoping China says yes. And Porsche is writing down billions while Chinese manufacturers are accelerating past them. And China is making it all possible. Let that sink in. If Lotus returns with Chinese money, carrying 70 years of the most glorious history in motorsport, it won't just be a comeback story. It will be the greatest comeback story Formula One has ever seen. Subscribe if you're new. We are now 1,000 plus subscribers. Thank you for the love and support, and drop in the comments. Do you want Lotus back? Yes or no? Let's get on with the full story. That sound, that color, that name. If you know anything about Formula One, that name gives you chills. Lotus, the team that changed the sport forever. The team of Colin Chapman, of Ayrton Senna, of Jim Clark. The most iconic name in the entire history of motorsport. They left Formula One in 2015, and since then, silence. But right now, in 2026, the most iconic comeback story in motorsport history might be about to happen, and China is the one making it possible. First Dragon, BYD. This company sold 4.6 million cars in 2025 alone. They overtook Tesla. Their Yangwang U9 supercar just broke the 7-minute barrier at the Nürburgring, the first pure electric car to ever do that. BYD is a monster, and they are actively exploring Formula One entry right now. German publication Auto Motor und Sport, one of the most reliable sources in motorsport journalism, reported this year that BYD is specifically looking at acquiring an established team. Two names came up, Alpine and Aston Martin. Yes, that Aston Martin, the $3.2 billion team currently having an absolute nightmare season with their Honda power unit shaking apart at the seams, and Fernando Alonso literally saying he risks permanent nerve damage to his hands. A team in crisis, a team that might, just might, be open to a lifeline. But BYD isn't the most interesting story here, not by a long shot. Second Dragon, Geely. Now Geely you might know because they own Volvo, they own Polestar. Geely is a Chinese conglomerate that has spent the last decade quietly buying up some of the most iconic automotive brands on the planet. And in 2017, they bought Lotus. Let that sink in. The company that owns Lotus, the most iconic name in Formula One history, is a Chinese corporation with billions of dollars, global ambitions, and a very, very deep interest in getting back into this sport. Here's where this story gets absolutely wild. When Lotus left Formula One in 2015, they were based at a famous factory in Onstone, Oxfordshire. Renault bought the team back. Renault eventually became Alpine, and Alpine right now, in 2026, is that same Onstone team. Same factory, same history, different name on the door. And Alpine? Alpine is currently looking for new investment. There are reports of ownership changes, new stakeholders being sought, the future of the team being actively discussed. So you have Geely, who owns Lotus, potentially eyeing the exact team at the exact factory where Lotus last raced in Formula One. The poetry of that is almost too perfect. From 2026, Alpine runs on Mercedes power units. And Geely's relationship with Mercedes? It already exists on the road car side. The Lotus Emira uses an AMG engine as one of its options. Geely and Mercedes are already partners. If Geely bought into the Onstone team, they'd be inheriting a Mercedes-powered operation from a manufacturer they already work with. That is not a coincidence. That is a blueprint. And then, earlier this year, the Lotus official Instagram account shared an image of Audi's 2026 F1 car concept. No caption, no explanation, just the image. In a sport where nothing is accidental, where every word, every photo, every paddock appearance means something, that post was a message. And everyone in F1 understood exactly what it meant. Now, how does this actually happen? Because walking in and spending $3 billion on day one isn't the play. Not in Formula One. Not in 2026. Look at what Toyota just did with Haas. 1 year ago, technical partnership, engineering collaboration, driver development, a little branding, low cost, low risk, massive learning. This year, the team is officially called TGR Haas F1 Team. Toyota's name is on the car. Toyota's drivers are testing. Toyota's engineers are inside the garage. They didn't buy their way in. They earned their way in. Slowly. Strategically. And now they're positioned, if they ever want to pull the trigger on a full takeover, to do it from a position of knowledge, not desperation. That is the exact playbook BYD and Geely are going to follow. First, a technical partnership, then a title sponsorship, then maybe the keys to the whole operation. Think of how Alfa Romeo worked with Sauber for 6 full seasons before walking away. That's what a patient, strategic Chinese entry looks like. China doesn't need to rush. F1 is the one running out of time. Let's look at the numbers. Because numbers don't lie. 230,000 fans at Shanghai 2026. 221 million. F1 fans in China, 39% fan growth in 12 months. That is not just the biggest crowd Formula One has seen in years. That is a statement, a warning, a declaration. China has arrived in Formula One, and they are not here to watch quietly from the sidelines. Now here's what makes this story so fascinating. China doesn't need Formula One. Formula One needs China. Think about that for a second. The FIA, the governing body of the sport, their own president, Mohammed bin Sulayem, has been publicly, openly, almost desperately asking for a Chinese manufacturer to join the grid. The FIA president, dreaming about China. That tells you everything about the power dynamic here. And now, 2 of the biggest car companies in the world are knocking on the door. F1 needs China more than China needs F1. The fans are already there. The money is already there. The only question is timing. And right now, the timing has never been better. So here's where we land. Lotus, the most storied name in Formula One history, is now owned by a Chinese company with the money, the motive, and the opportunity to bring it back to the grid it once dominated. BYD, the world's biggest EV maker, is circling Aston Martin and Alpine like a very patient, very wealthy shark. And Formula One, a sport that has spent the last decade chasing American fans, American races, American money, is now realizing that the biggest prize of all was always sitting right there. 1.4 billion people, the fastest growing F1 fan base on the planet, and manufacturers powerful enough to reshape the entire grid. If Lotus returns to Onstone in Chinese colors, with Chinese money, carrying 70 years of the most glorious history in motorsport, it won't just be a comeback story. It will be the greatest comeback story Formula One has ever seen. If you want to go deeper on the BYD Aston Martin acquisition story, comment BYD. We will make the deep dive. Consider subscribing if you're new, and drop in the comments. Do you want Lotus back? Yes or no? Let's see where the audience lands.